and welcome everybody. I'm just going to introduce myself first. I'm an independent chair, and I was asked to do this as an independent. I've worked in the local community for a long time. I'm the chief exec of a local disability charity called Richmond Aid. I'm going to do an introduction for what the community conversations are, and I'll just read it out. So the community conversation is part of the council's community engagement programme. One aspect of the programme is a series of events hosted by local ward councillors who are here tonight. The meetings are used to discuss local issues, not specific personal issues. And if you'd like to discuss concerns or follow up, get your local councillors' details after the event. I'd just like to emphasise that this is about conversation, so you can bring comments, suggestions. It's more of it's not a kind of formal Q&A, it's of a, as I said, conversation. So don't be afraid to share your experiences and suggestions. Just to introduce our two BSL interpreters here, if we do have any people from the deaf community, please do feel free to come up the front and explain where the fire exits are. So the fire exits are down the back and just where Bailey is there. She's going to wave to you. Okay, they're here. I'm going to give an outline of the agenda. We're going to have a themed discussion, and there'll be 10 to 15 minutes for each theme, and we'll do a short introduction by each councillor. I'm going to ask the councillors to introduce themselves now. So we'll start with yourself, or left, right?
Okay, I'm Richard Bennett, Green Party councillor for South Twickenham.
I'm Michael Button, South Twickenham.
I'm Alan Jurians, I'm a councillor for West Twickenham.
I'm Councillor Piazzone, I'm also a West Twickenham councillor.
I'm Ray Lee, South Twickenham councillor.
Thank you. I just have to remind everyone that if you do want to make a suggestion, a comment or anything, you will need to use the microphone. That's just so we can be as inclusive as possible to anyone who might be hard of hearing or just, just for clarity. So we're ready to introduce the themes, the main themes. The first theme is Richmond Moves. Which councillor?
So thank you. I'm introducing the theme is Richmond Moves, and this is the name of our campaign to get people more active more often. It's an action plan for our leisure strategy to improve health and well-being for all our residents. Parks and open spaces are central to this, providing the active environments that are accessible, inclusive and sustainable. In our wards we have Radnor Gardens, Twickenham Green, Nella Gardens and Crane Park. Lots of facilities for sports and leisure, including lawn bowls, tennis, basketball, netball, gym and most recently Petanque. And all ability cycling sessions with adapted bikes. There are also several exercise groups using the parks, and while all of this activity can put some stress on the grass, with careful management we are able to get the most out of these public green spaces. Our leisure infrastructure plan aims to ensure all these facilities are maintained to a high standard, including the play areas, to help meet growing demand while protecting biodiversity with a sustainable approach to all improvements. We are fortunate these parks have active friends groups, and officers work closely with them, promoting a partnership approach and encouraging engagement with the people who use these spaces. If you think there is more we can do to encourage residents to be more active, particularly those who aren't participating in any activity at the moment, please do let us know.
Thank you. And the next theme is cycle lanes and storage.
Sorry, Lucy. We're going to take.
Sorry, we're doing. Yeah. Sorry, I thought we did all the themes and then. Okay, so we're now opening it up for comments, observations. Tell us what you think around that theme, please. Is that really helpful? Oh, wait till we bring the microphone for you, please. Sorry.
you have any health walk brochures?
Brochures.
Yes, for the health walks.
I don't have any brochures with me here. I don't know if there are something we obviously can pass.
You're not promoting them.
We're not promoting them.
No, you don't have the brochures.
Have we got the brochures?
I don't see any yet here, but we can get them.
So that's something we
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
What we'll do
They're
is
certainly on the website. You'll find
Yes.
all the information on the health boards and
Yes.
so on. But they usually are. There are
It's a very
leaflets.
nice brochure,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
appealing.
Mm.
So you don't feel we're promoting it enough? is that
I'm
what you're
promoting it now.
Thank you. Any further gentlemen down the back? Oh, sorry, lady down the back.
You know your buttons.
On that note, I actually, and thank you very much, Mary, at the front there. I actually look after the health walks at the council, so we'll get some brochures down. But just to let everyone know that we do have walks that take place 6 days a week, which are ideally suited for the rooms. So hopefully, councillors, you will be promoting lovely and strong walks. But I can get home and get some brochures because I've got some here around the corner.
Thank you. And over here?
I was just going to mention allotments, because I think that's another way of getting a lot of exercise and obviously people enjoying the open site. I appreciate from a council point of view there's more demand than there is a sort of space to accommodate people. But there are 24 sites in the borough and there's 2,200 people who already have allotments. So I think that's a good message, and obviously I belong to Lawrence St Margaret, so we're very happy obviously if people from the area want to come along. And that. The other thing I'd mention is the Grimwood Road operation, which is just reopening now. Again, it'd be possible to get exercise there and also grow things. So I think it's a nice message. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I think one of the candidates.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, physical activity isn't just about sport, it's about doing other things like working in the garden. And we have created this community sports and physical activity network, and it isn't just for sport. So, I mean, perhaps we could ask the organisation, it's brag, isn't it? To come along and get more involved in that.
And as you may know, there's also the Meadway Orchard project and so on, where people are encouraged to sort of come along and get stuck into doing some green type activities usually on the orchard site, or it can be actually in Meadway Nature Reserve as well, and in Nelly Garden. So that's a really inclusive activity. Those recently had an open day, and you can probably still read about it in one of our recent community newsletters. Really worthwhile project.
Hello, just wondering if you are doing any coordination with the Richmond Ramblers over walking. I've got what I think is a potential project to organise some nature walks. I don't think they'd be suitable as health walks because we'd be going into wooded areas, rutted terrain. But it would be very leisurely and teaching people about how to identify plants and insects and things along the way. So hopefully I'll get that going soon. But I don't know if you communicate with Rich Ramblers at all.
Which would be the best councillor to liaise with on that one? Yeah, councillor, if you speak to Councillor Durians afterwards?
Yeah, we have got part of the Richmond Moods campaigns. We've set up an activity finder, and we're trying to get all the different groups that organise events or activities in the borough to list themselves on that activity finder, so people can be directed to where they can find the activity that most suits them. So yeah, talk to me afterwards and I'll make sure you get them.
And our local charity force, Friends of the River Crane Environment, do run regular walks throughout the year and so on. So it's worth checking with them as well. I'm sure they'd be pleased.
Sorry, what's the name again?
It's force, F-O-R-C-E.
Thank you. Any further comments, suggestions? Councillor Fulton.
Hi, I'm Helen. I am the spokesperson for communities, equalities in the voluntary sector. And I would like this lady who just talked to us about Ramblers to please see me at the end. And that's one of our voluntary sector organizations that I don't think we have connections with. So come see me at the end and we'll sign you up and we can make connections with other groups.
Great.
I want to make one comment, which is, I guess we're all aware that our nearest green space, Twickenham Green, is looking the worst for the wear after the summer and the drought and rain that just stays on the surface. So, you know, I'm very anxious that is well protected looking ahead, because it is such a bad state now that we need to think of some more radical ways of addressing the problems than just relying on seeding and growing. We've got to think of some more radical ideas, and I hope the council will do that. Thank you.
Hello, I did actually write to, I can't remember which councillors, when the charges came in on the tennis courts, specifically for OAPs, and I know it's free for children of a certain age, and I just wondered if this could be reconsidered. I live locally, I go past the tennis courts as a local kid fairly often, and they're just not used in the afternoons, apart from occasionally one court is used by the professional who's giving lessons. It's the afternoons and the times which aren't peak that pensioners are going to actually use the course. Could it be reconsidered, please? About I know it is actually not expensive if you buy an annual pass, but it's you know, it strikes me. I used to go past there, and there was always sometimes kids would get out there and play for nothing, but there was always some older people who were middle of the day type of times. That was all. I just wanted to be reconsidered. I think it was yourself, I think.
It was. Yeah. I mean, we can certainly look at that, but I mean, as I told you before, I mean, it's, we want to get people playing tennis more often, really. So the idea is to get people coming back regularly, doing it every week or every couple of weeks. And that's why we created this membership fee as a low level, so that once you've joined, you can go as often as you want. Yeah, I mean, I understand your point, but that's the rationale for it, and we can look at it again, certainly.
Okay, while I'm here, you just reminded me, you mentioned about the state of Twickenham, but I work for the council at Teach Chase Bridge School, next to the rugby ground, and as you go in the entrance to the rugby ground there's just a piece of land which they have grass on, and it was being tended by 3 people last week, seeding, cutting grass. It looks like pitch in the stadium. This is just a bit of grass outside. Could they help us with the green?
Okay, thank you very much. Melissa, we got a question online?
Thanks, Lucy. So one question online is, will the parking charges at pools on Park Centre be removed? They add to the cost of going to the gym.
Thank you. Which councillor would like to talk?
I don't know what the parking charges are, but that's probably my area. I thought if you went for a swing, you didn't actually have to pay for the parking, but I'll take that away and find out for sure what the situation. You don't have to pay at Teddington Pool. I'm sure what it was at Richmond.
Thank you. So perhaps different situations at different pools, I think. Any other questions on this theme, or comments or suggestions? We've got the health walk leaflets. The health walk leaflets are at the back. So official announcement. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next theme now, which is the cycle lanes and storage, which is Councillor Butler.
Yes, as background, we know that there are certainly a number of cycle lanes in existence in the south Twickenham area, and there are plans, of course, for additional cycle lanes in Staines Road. We've got the space, we need some money. The same with South Twickenham, we're talking about. We've got at the moment some plans for additional parking and additional cycle lanes in the main road down there. But of course, it's large amounts of money that we need, which we don't have at the moment. So that isn't something I can see. It's coming. We have the plans, we have the space, but that we're trying to get places invested, and we need government to do that. And at the moment, I think it's been short of money for other things as well. The bike hangers are really a good it's a good story, because when people are being able to promise to sign up for it, we've been able to deliver bike and this makes it I'm very keen about it, because although in some of the areas of South Twickenham, there are various other areas, both in West and South Twickenham, in the north of here, where people don't actually have large amounts of space in their houses, and especially if you've got maybe 2 bikes, maybe 3 bikes in the house. I think I've come across 5 bikes in the house. It's trying to find space to put them in a weather protected area. So I'm glad that we were able to do it. Although my initial thought a few years back was that what we should do is position them along Heath Road, because there are a number of apartments there where there is a depth for bicycles. So if you need a space for your park with your bike, then complain and we'll see if we can fulfill the response. Talking about Sheffield Stand, it's basically not the bike handles. It's getting space. It's really, let's say, tell us where you need to have a parking space for a bicycle, because unlike the money you can park it in the gutter, nowadays you can rest assured it will be there when you come back. So you need something to lock it up to. And I know as complaints, or should I say, I've had a request for additional parking for bicycles at the beginning of your square, where the shops are, which is obviously where most people want to go. You want to go to your shop and park your bike, pick up a loaf of bread or whatever, and there are nice, lots of little shops all the way down the road, and certainly over here we've now got a growing cafe area around here. Some very nice, interesting cafes, and well worth a try. I've been to 2 of them, well worth popping in for a coffee and to see what's there. But there I see there's a need for bicycle ties down. But that's really, so that's where we're going as a company, as a council. Yes.
Thank you. So cycle lanes and cycle storage, what's your comments? So if you do with this ladies first here, and then you start.
It's not directly to do with cycle lanes as such, but it's about e-bikes, and I don't know whether you're going to address those later on. And I've got a number of issues about e-bikes, but somebody that isn't able to come tonight asked me to bring this up, and it's about illegal e-bikes. I just wondered what you're doing about those that are throttle operated and actually exceed the 15.5 miles an hour speed limits that the e-bikes are limited to. I just wondered if somebody would like to comment on illegal e-bikes.
Well, the quickest thing to say is, how do you tell an illegal e-bike?
It's got a throttle.
It's not a pedal.
They've got no pedal. They're not pedalling. They're not pedalling, and they're moving along the road with no helmet, no registration plate. Sorry?
They're not required to have helmets or anything.
But they're illegal.
Let's take one step at a time. First of all, if you're on an illegal bike, that can be maybe a pedal and the rest.
That's what I was hoping for.
Fortunately, we've got the police down the back here, they're going to come in on this.
I quite honestly agree with you.
Aye.
Personally, I think the e-bikes
Would you like to come up the front?
should have a number plate. Personally.
They're not actually bikes, though, just to clarify. A bike with a throttle is an electric motor.
Hi, PC Greg Roberts. I'm the South Twickenham Safe and Neighbourhood Officer for Ward, and also I work with the West Twickenham wards as well. In relation to your question, madam, if we see them and we can catch them, we deal with them and we seize them. That's it. Generally, a lot of times, from personal experience as well, I've had somebody on an e-bike and they make off. It has to be a judgment decision on whether or not that goes into a pursuit, because a lot of us aren't pursuit trained, and if they fall off or they injure themselves, then we're liable and we end up in court. But if we do stop them, we go for them and we deal with them and we seize them and we take them off the street. It's just a matter of actually catching them in the act if we're there and then when we see them, if that makes sense.
Yep, they're there every day.
Again, it's a question of resourcing and numbers, because obviously we're subject to the radio for answering calls and dealing with other stuff, but if we're out and we see them, personally, I've had to try and get somebody on an e-scooter who's probably doing about 40-50 miles an hour down Heath Road. Okay, I had to be very careful doing, but I had to let it go, if that makes sense, because it was too dangerous for the person. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great, thank you. I think we'll move on now. This gentleman's waiting here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. On the bike lanes, Staines Road has had a painted bike lane in it that you haven't been able to cycle in for 20 years at any time of the day. I know it's all down to funding, but it would be so wonderful if we could have a network of cycle lanes so that predominantly children can just have some independence and get to school. You know, we've seen this happen in other towns and cities, and it's transformational actually. And it'd be lovely to see a bit more. The one to Kingston down Strawberry Vale it's good. Not as good as I would like, but I'd love to see more segregated cycle lanes just to make it safe. We've got other routes that we consider, Crane Park and things like that, but to link up the area. On the bike hangers thing, they are brilliant, and you mentioned 4 bikes, 5 bikes. I have 4 bikes, and I'd love to put a bike hanger. To do so would cost £288 per year, and a parking permit. At one point, Richmond were handing out free to Band A vehicles, so I just wondered how I realise it's a servicing cost, but that doesn't make sense to me that a family should have to spend nearly £300 to store bikes, but a parking permit could be as little as 60 or 70.
Thank you. So just 2 questions.
Responding to 2 points.
So the first one maybe around. Do you want to say that?
Let me just say that the benefit of a bike hanger is you actually have a guaranteed space. So unlike a permit to park in front zone, no guarantee at all. Okay, but I would like to see them more often rather than less. But also I'd like to see them brighter, because I think they're disastrously unattractive, and also I think you can't see them in the dark, and that to me is wrong. I think we should site them such a way that we can see them in the dark.
It's more the cost than the visibility, but I don't mind them, they don't offend me. But
if you go up down there in the dark, you don't want somebody driving into them, or worse, another bicycle pedaling into them. It costs me nothing. It costs me little to have them pointing. Shall we say white, perhaps, or red, maybe yellow, whatever. But I say to the other.
Can we move on to the cycle length, cycle?
Well, there's 2 parts to that. Yeah. No, just on the cycle hangers. I mean, the £72 a year is the neutral cost neutral split. The either focuses on trying to roll them out more of them across the borough, and there's a huge demand for them. So there's just making sure we keep that demand going until we satisfy that demand. So it's as Mike said before, budget's tight, and it's trying to get as many out as quickly as we can. So that's why the cost is that level. It's not making any action, just make sure we can roll them out as fast as we can. In terms of the cycle lane on Staines Road, again, like I said, these things are very expensive, especially on the Strawberry Vale costs. That was extremely expensive to me, and it can only be funded by grants from the GA, and we consistently apply for those grants, and we did apply for one for Staines Road, and we didn't get it the last time, and we'll probably apply for it again at the next round. But in the meantime, what we're doing in Staines Road is putting in some yellow lines. Quite soon, they should be quite soon, is that right, Dave? And for the rush hours, so that children can get to the school, Walgrave School, and what have you, and come home from Walgrave School in those cycle lanes. So that's what we're trying to do as an interim measure.
Thank you. I think there's some further questions, and there's a gentleman, sorry, there's somebody else who did want to pay your system.
Good evening, everyone. So we actually live on the Staines Road, on the part of the Staines Road that is about to be converted, where the cycle lane is about to be enforced by yellow lines. And I'm not quite sure why, for 7% of the length of the road, which is Staines Road down in Twickenham, from where we live down in Twickenham, it's the only part of the Staines Road which has a cycle lane, and yet now we are being forced not to be able, we're now no longer able to park outside our own properties now that our guests, nor the carers who come to visit some of the elderly people who live on that road, because of the yellow lines that are being put in, and I'm not quite sure what the logic there is. Thank you.
I mean, that's one of the reasons, obviously there's been a lot of feedback on consultation before we put those in, and that's why we're limiting it just to the rush hours, so you will be able to park during the day if people are visiting.
But people come and visit the stone overnight, where do they park overnight?
Well, when you're in there, that zone, you will be able to park anywhere in that zone, so in the crossroads, Twining Avenue,
which are already completely full. Completely full. The whole area is full. There's far too many cars as we know. Well, on-street parking sadly is a fact. You know, the Staines Road has got a very wide pavement. And part of that pavement is used as a cycle lane and bus stop at Mill Road. Why that couldn't have been extended further up and down the Staines Road? So, I'm not sure what a cyclist does when he gets into the cycle lane for 200 yards, and then what does he do when the cycle lane ends? It could have been a little bit more creatively done, I think, by sharing the pavement between pedestrians and cyclists, and it's plenty wide enough.
And that's the long-term plan, but the changing the pavement in that way is what costs the money. It's like developing the Strawberry Vale cycle lane. To actually make those changes to the pavement, to the road, and to that level, it's extreme. And it needs a grant from the GLA. We don't cancel those sort of funds. So we are still applying for those grants in the future. We'll have a proper cycle lane with, so that's the objective. Anyway.
We can talk a lot about cycling, and we're constrained by this format, so I won't go on about it. But one observation I would make about is the school run. That's one of the worst traffic problems of urban Britain. Other areas are trying to come up with more and more innovative ideas for trying to get children to school on a bike and feel safe in the process. I was just looking at a video of what they're doing in Worcester that seemed quite exciting, and bike volunteers helping children as groups to go into school and feel safer in doing it. So there's a lot that can be done. Money is a problem, but it's not all about money. Some of it is about imagination. Thank you.
Sorry, I did say earlier, I'm a cycling instructor, and I teach children and I teach adults. And one point this gentleman in front of me made is, great, miles of cycle lane. The problem, which I come across with when I'm teaching people, is they suddenly end. Yeah? The beginning and end of cycle lanes is the problem. The cycle lane's fine, you're in it, lovely. It's how they end. And I would say, I don't think that much thought has gone into how cycle lanes end.
So there's someone over here. There's an online one as well.
Yes, hello. There was some little discussion about bicycle parking, and you were talking about parking in cafes and restaurants, things like that. But I think another area you might prioritise is places like pharmacies, where, I've been in a situation where I haven't been feeling well, I've had the choice of walking or cycling to pick up a prescription, and cycling is usually easier. So I've gone off on my bicycle, but haven't been able to find a place immediately outside the pharmacy to park, had to cross the road, park the bike on the other side of the road, cross back again, sometimes in the dark. And I think maybe, that's a case where some people could be feeling a bit vulnerable with their bicycles, and it'd be really nice if there could be, a convenient place outside, place like pharmacies, I don't know, optometrists, whatever else, that they could park right outside the place they have to go, on the correct side of the street.
Yeah, certainly if you find a spot that you feel needs a sign, stop, as it were.
Yeah, well, I'd
Just
say the Maple Leaf pharmacy right here on Leaf Road.
What's the best way of, if you see areas that you think would be a great place to put, bike,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Just say,
email your local councillor.
email your local councillor, or take a picture and say, we should have one there, thank you very much.
So open to suggestions for that one, it sounds like. Great. Was it the online question, Melissa?
Thanks, Lucy. The question is, the bike lane in Strawberry Vale led to the loss of 6 spaces between Clive Road and Mitchell Gardens, yet there are not that many bikes using it. Is there an evaluation set against the cost available? But I think it's coming up against the cost of installing it.
So who's going to take that one? So, sorry, Melissa, I think you wanted to answer the question again.
So the question is, the bike lane in Strawberry Vale led to the loss of 6 parking spaces between Clive Road and Mickelman Gardens, yet there are not that many bikes using the bike lane.
According to who?
Well, yes, there's a comment.
You say that there are not many bikes using it, I mean...
Yeah, so the resident is saying that there aren't that many bikes using the bike lane, and has there been any evaluation against the cost?
Well, before those cycle lanes were put in, an assessment was made of the demand, you say. We haven't done any counts of cycle use since they were put in, but certainly we made the counts beforehand. And I know, shall we say, I have people I need to go and see in that area, and I frequently go there and see people on bikes. So I mean, but I can't say it's a vast number. And also that if you're talking about 5 River Gardens, you find that is slightly different from the Strawberry Vale itself. You find that parking, the actual lanes from that point on are under review. They're not something we're doing because of money.
Okay, thank you. I think we need to move on to the next theme now, which is local environment and trees.
Thank you, Lisa. The Council has recently adopted Richmond tree planting strategy, which aims to enhance the borough's urban forest by increasing the tree canopy cover, improving tree health and promoting community engagement. The strategy is part of Richmond's broad environmental goals, including achieving carbon neutrality by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2046. Now, 3 key themes within the tree planting strategy. Firstly, it's trees for communities. This emphasises the importance of community involvement in urban forestry. So this is engaging residents in tree planting and core activities, fostering a sense of ownership and stewardship over local green spaces. Educational programmes and workshops will raise awareness about the benefits of trees, such as improving air quality, providing shade and enhancing biodiversity. The approach also includes partnerships with schools, local businesses and community groups to support tree planting events and long-term maintenance goals. By involving the community, Richmond aims to create a more resilient and vibrant urban forest that benefits everyone. Secondly, we have Trees for Health. This focuses on the significant health benefits that urban trees provide to the community. It emphasises the role of trees in providing air quality, reducing urban heat islands and promoting mental well-being. The strategy includes planting trees in areas with high pollution levels and limited green spaces to maximise health benefits and support the creation of green corridors and shaded walkways to encourage outdoor events and active travel. By integrating trees into urban planning, Richmond aims to enhance public health and create a more livable environment for all residents. And finally, trees for the environment. Focusing on the ecological benefits of urban trees, aiming to enhance the biodiversity, improve air quality and mitigate climate change impacts. The strategy includes planting native species to support local wildlife and creating green corridors to connect fragmented habitats. Additionally, it promotes sustainable practices such as rain gardens and permeable pavements to manage stormwater and reduce flooding. By integrating trees into urban planning, Richmond seeks to create a healthier and more resilient environment for both people and nature. We'll also be putting investment into parks, and these are some of the changes. As part of our programme for cyclical maintenance, we'll be carrying out works across the borough in the next coming months. These are minor works to enhance and protect the park's infrastructure, and this will not be subject to consultation. However, we will be letting us councillors know and park stakeholders about the works and when they're about to start.
Thank you. So open to comments, suggestions.
Hi, I live in Norcutt Road, and recently we had 4 trees planted, 3 down one end very close to each other and another one sort of further up the road. At the point was the street involved or discussed as to how these trees were going to be looked after, whether anybody's ever going to come and water them, and I must admit they're not looking very good.
Thank you. Move on to next.
Yeah, if you want to, I'll write that down and I'll get a response to you if that's okay.
The issue of the trees not being watered, we have to face the fact that there are so many trees in so much need of so much water. The answer is water them yourself, which is what we do on Twickenham Green. We have a team now of volunteers, particularly young trees in the first 2 or 3 years need quite a bit of water. But even a litre bottle of water at a time can make a difference to a young tree. And I notice parks do put notices on some of the trees, please water this tree. And you just can't expect parks to solve all the problems. The budget constraints, the limitations, and as I say, it's just sheer number of trees that we're looking after. So get involved with your neighbours and water your local trees.
Yeah, we are encouraging residents to adopt trees, especially in the hot months, try and get out and give them the water. So it's how we say it's hard for the council to get around all of them. So, thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, all the trees that go in, we put in a lot of trees, about 800 planting this year, and they all have a watering programme with them, which ideally should be enough, but in the sort of weather we've had over the summer, it hasn't been enough. And so we've also put in this band Friends of Street Trees. And Friends of Street Trees is going really well. I mean, we're asking people to adopt a tree in their street, or just join the group, and they'll be told where trees need watering. And it's a very simple thing to do. And if people are interested in supporting the tree growth in the borough, which we're hoping most people are, we will support that endeavour, really. Come back on that.
Yeah, I'd like to come back on that because I've just had 86% increase in my Thames water bill. There's no way I'm throwing 3 litres a day down a tree hole. And what I was trying to stress was that there was no involvement when these trees were planted. And if at the first time that had been introduced to the street, 3 of these trees are down at the bottom in front of an HMO and rental properties, so they're not going to get people that interested in looking after a tree.
Well, people, the house directly opposite the trees where they go in are supposed to be informed. I don't know if that was the case on the street, but that's what they are supposed to be. We can take that back.
I think we'll move on to the next topic.
Can I just say, I think we're talking about the right problem here, because I would praise the council in terms of planting trees, But of course, the problem is keeping them alive, isn't it? I mean, we do hear, I mean, sometimes they have to be, well, they're damaged trees or dying trees. As councillors, we get a regular report every year about the ones in our ward that are going to have to be chopped down, and the reason why it's inevitable and unavoidable that's going to happen. But the worst problem is that those just die from lack of water, and we see that all the time. And of course, I agree, that's the policy, that we tell people that we're planting the tree, and would they water it and look after it to some extent. But if that's the policy, it doesn't mean it happens every time that they do get told. That's the issue. You know, you have a policy, but practice may not happen.
Councillor Baldwin?
I hear what this lady's saying, because we have similar problems around us, and people are reluctant to use fresh water to plant them, but you can use your stuff out of your washing up, you can use reused water. If you're taking a bath, something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be fresh water, but I hear what you're saying. It is tough keeping them alive, and we depend on our residents to help keep them alive, if not by watering them, by at least telling us that they're failing and where they're failing, so that we can do something about it. So thank you very much for bringing that up.
Okay, so, final comment again?
Sorry, I think this lady might have been there, but I just want to say, one problem is that people water trees in the wrong place. If they do water them, they tend to water trees right next to the trunk, and completely the wrong place. You need to go to the edge of the canopy, and you'll often see an area of dry grass there, and that's where the roots are taking in water, not near the trunk, where they're sort of armoured and they're just structural. And we need to know this, so it's an education issue. Yeah. Another thing is, we've got honey fungus in some of our local trees, and I don't know if there's a way to report this and a way to control it, because that can be a big problem and lead to trees needing to be taken out.
Take a photograph
Yeah, okay.
of the tree and send it to your local councillor.
Right.
I've done it. And guess what? Parks go around and check it.
Okay, so solution for that one. And then
That's a quick plug. If you've got a mobile phone, do actually download the Richmond app. It means you can actually report exactly where something that is fixing it is. Take a photograph, and it's all done in one, and you get an acknowledgement of that. So it's a really useful app to use.
great, thank you. And it sounds like with the programme that you're talking about, Councillor, there'll be a lot of education maybe on how to look after trees, so hopefully. So one more question?
Regarding the water they use, your personal is a bill for the water bill. We can use like you use a bucket, save some when it's rain or something, store some rainwater to like recycle the water to watering the plant. Or if you have like near the park, I was a swimming pool or the paddling pool for the children, and you can use that water to water the tree. It's save people money for that.
Yeah, trees not water, not liquid. That's food for them, phosphates.
Okay, lots of education tonight. Okay, so I think we're ready to move on to the next area, which is the Greg's development, and that's Councillor Bennett.
I should say that this development was always going to be problematic because it's quite a dense development in a densely populated area. It's hemmed in on three sides by housing, and at its back is the river and the railway. So that's an issue to start with. And also, in terms of the way the council works, tend to be very reactive. It's not overstaffed in planning enforcement. So they tend to be reactive. They have about 3 Richmond-facing staff with maybe 400 developments going on, and so they adopt a reactive model. The trouble with this one is, if you just are reacting, you're always behind the game, because there's so much going on, and in the end, you find, as in the summary that's been provided here, that the workload is there. There are an awful lot of officers who do get involved, but by the time you get old, you tend to be managed more by the developer than you're managing the developer. And so there have been issues around dust, there have been issues around traffic, and there are issues around noise and vibration. And you could say it's getting better. The dialogue is probably improved a bit, communication's improved a bit, but we're still going to have issues looking ahead as to how well these monitors work. People are having bad experiences of maybe structural damage or claiming that, but then being able to prove that's immensely difficult. So, and then eventually when it's built, we're going to have some traffic problems to go with it, I suspect. But, I open the conversation to you all.
Perhaps I would add, because I was actually on the planning committee for this development. I mean, one of the things that we always have as one of our standards, but we were particularly given this dense site, was our construction management plan, and this is actually what the officers are assessing, things like noise and vibration and so on against. There is a construction plan, so it's of course it relies on reporting in where there might be breaches and so on, but there is a construction amendment plan that was agreed back in, I think, in November 2024, and this is what actually being measured against. So it's not purely reactive. There's a plan that goes in that's agreed by planning officers. Let's ask some questions.
I'm living Dord Road. I'm directly affected by this. I just want to say, firstly, thank you to Councillor Bennett for really taking this on and driving. It's been, we all accept, I think, that there's a shortage of housing and it needs to happen, but the way that this has happened and the response at times has been terrible. I'm one of the residents who suffered damage to my property. It's quite clear when that happened. There was some severe vibrations from the site. This was reported to environmental health. They were incompetent, I think is not unfair to say, in their response to it. They sent me data. It took a long time of back and forth to actually find out, and I still don't know where the vibration monitors, all of them are on the site. There's a willingness to accept London Square explanation on face value whilst ignoring all the evidence that we're providing as residents, and it is extremely frustrating. There's been times where I've had to go down to the site and insist they stop work. I've felt the whole building moving. I'm not exaggerating when I say I thought the building was going to collapse whilst the vibrations have been that strong. So it's clearly an issue. And then we all feel a little bit gaslit, to be honest, by some of the response by London Square and environmental health. Richard has been fantastic on championing this for us, but it's affected us substantially, and we feel like a lot of these issues are not really being taken seriously.
I'm a councillor of South Twickenham, and I've got 5 years of construction business experience myself, working on the site at Greg's frequently, and if I heard a problem, I went down there myself and checked it out right away. There was a spell of very dusty conditions some months ago. Since that time, there's been constant damping down, etc. As regards the support the London Square providing with environmental, they've got all these checks and balances there, the recording of what they see from these monitors is available to our officers, and particularly given annual report, particularly given the various reports, because they have to go and then get a report. Every report costs them £200 or £300. But they're happy to do that. If there's a complaint, they'll do a report. And the reports have shown that they are within the standard industry standards. So the real fact is, you can't ask them to build at some lower standard if they're meeting the standard for the industry. You can't say, well, in this case, it's different. You could, but you can't once you've given planning permission. Okay? If you wanted to set up planters before, then it should have happened during the consultation and before it goes to planning. Unfortunately, when the planning department came to consider it, they can't then set up standards that are below the national standards. Because why? You can't force a developer to build it to your standard if it's not, it's excess demands on isn't national policy. I mean,
but no one can actually show me where these vibration monitors are. They're not positioned in the place where they're indicated in CMS. I can tell you that. And nobody's actually, you know, shown me where they are. No.
I will find out. And I'll make a way.
Just to say as well, when you email us, we get on the phone or we email either both generally officers and London Square themselves. We may not be able to get an answer straight away, but we are on your side to get answers, to get things stopped if they're not right, and to try and figure in the future to make it easier for you, because we understand it is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
In terms of vibration, if you have cracks appearing, what London Square said is that if you could get your surveyor around to check in, and if it is found to be the fault of them, so they will cover those costs. So please.
But you can't prove. It's almost impossible to prove that. And all of the residents on that road, I'm not the worst affected. I'm a little distance away, but the crack wasn't there in the morning. I had enormous this incident where I had to go out and tell them to stop, and then the crack appeared. But you know, it's very difficult for me to prove that. And you know, they are not, to your point, Piers, they're not operating at all times within the CMS. There's vehicles that are not supposed to be there during school hours, and they're longer than they should be. They're repeated breaches of these conditions.
If you can document these and get them over to us, we will try as hard as we can to make sure these are addressed, and they will, fingers crossed, not happen again. But if we don't know, we can't get on their backs.
So I mean, there is now, and I'm not quite sure how recent this has been, but so a dedicated contact in the Planning Enforcement Department who's Alfie Peachy.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've probably been in contact with him and so on. So he is the main contact taking in things and so on. So as well as contact the ward councils.
I guess just the most disappointing thing is just the way that everything is taken from London Square at face value, whereas all, you know, and like well, it feels like environmental health. In the data that I was sent data from the vibration monitor. It was from the night. Nobody spotted that. I had to go back and point that out to them, but it was presented to me in such a way that it was like, look how compliant they are. I said, well, it's compliant because it's the middle of the night. It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
Sorry, thank you. There's a lady here, and then
if you want to send that over, is it Mr. Wood? Wolf. I remember your email. If you mind, Councillor Lee, if you email me again, I will use that again for you.
Hi, I am Fulian. I live straight away next to development, basically sharing one wall. And it was yes, when I moved there in November, it was a dust and everything. And thank you, Councillor Riley, that she first come to my home and then reported. And then they just covered the pile with they covered the pile, and they spray more water and everything. I mean, I understand it's going to be too much problem because they are actually trying to bring something in a very busy environment. But it's going to be very good. I'm personally very happy with this. And as I said, I'm next day because I much prefer, rather than ugly grape factory staying there, rather than we're going to get some nice, hopefully next doors. And then my children's walking along like they're like 18. And I was always scared because it's quite long walk and there is nothing there, just foxes. And it could be anyone actually going there, going in my garden. It can be anyone. It was a huge area, that big one. It could be any person can jump easily. It was really always scaring me. Now I am much happier because I feel more secure. That my children are more, basically more people, more crowded there. It's going to be more lovely. I know, I understand it's the problem there. It's going to be always a problem if you're just doing something. But at the end, I'm quite happy. I'm sure it's going to be quite nice to finish. And I would like to ask, is there any completion date with the site?
the completion date.
In terms of your particular location, basically the first properties will come on the market to physically go into in a referendum time. The actual end, the last bit of work will probably be about next Christmas, not this Christmas, about the following Christmas, end of 26.
So end of 26. Thank you. So it's an online question, Melissa?
Thanks, Lily. So comments here are from the same resident. Gross development, ongoing issues. Houses near the entrance of Gold and Crane Roads, still shaking with movements of diggers. Disabled bays being used by site workers, councillors are aware. Definitely agree with what the current resident is saying about being gaslit. And it is a difficult site. If it is a difficult site, then what should be done to mitigate the damage to houses?
Okay, so you want to take that one?
In the CMS, it does say that the entry should be in through Edwin Road and the exit through Gould Road, but that's never happened. And I can understand why it doesn't fit in with their construction sequencing and so on, except they probably should have realised that and probably did realise it a lot sooner, because that's created a lot of problems at the beginning, just using Gould for entry and exit. But my view on it also is on...
Let's be honest, they haven't just been using Gould for entry and exit. Fact. They've been using Edwin Road, right from day one, use Edwin Road to get into to retrieve.
But they can't use Edwin Road, and they won't be able to have that one-way system until Christmas, will they?
You don't live there. You don't see the lorries coming at the crack of dawn before the school run, before 8 o'clock. And there's some of these lorries have been so big, they can't turn the corner. They've been coming down Gordon Crane, they can't do it. Some of them to reverse. We've got videos of this.
I'm not saying it haven't. What I'm saying is there are errors that have been made. And certainly, if you're talking about the Gould entrance, there have been they had to basically back into it rather than directly in.
Yeah, but you just said they're meant to have come in from Edwin. Now you're saying they're coming in from Gould.
Can I just get back to Edwin? Can I get back to Edwin? Because the way in which the development was there, okay, they developed up from Edwin, go round to the back, okay. That's what and that's the way they developed it, and that's the way it went on. So they must have gone into Edwin, they must have come out of the rubbish. Because funny enough, I saw people going into Edwin, big trucks, okay. The big trucks are used for moving the soil away, okay. The big trucks, they're not.
So I think maybe rather than going into the specifics of the roads, if you've got videos, I think the councillors have sort of said maybe show that they're doing things according to the plans. So they're parking in disabled bays, if they're doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, please record it.
The parking about the bays and talking about the removal of the bays for a period of time. All being discussed at the moment, still. At the moment.
If you do see anything, please take a photo if you can. Let us know, let Cascade know, who's the communication with London Square. And they email at Cascade, they do go straight to London Square. And I promise you, we're not gaslighting you, but we don't have all the answers. We have to sometimes talk to people that know more than us. And we will try to get to the bottom of everything.
But there needs to be more empathy for the residents.
There is a lot of empathy.
There is a demand that they always have to produce photographic evidence, video evidence, because it's always doubted until they've got it. And then they say, oh, well, no, maybe that did happen.
Which we've done, we've given all the evidence. London Square give an explanation, and that's accepted.
We're not looking at the enforcement isn't going to happen because.
But the fact is,
can I just say something?
The reason that London Square is saying, give me a picture. Can I just say, the reason is because all the vehicles you see aren't London Square. Because the fact is, all the movement vehicles are other companies, or they call subcontractors. They don't actually move the trucks, they don't move the trucks.
They're responsible.
So therefore, we're not just disputing that. Therefore, by taking it back, they can actually pinpoint the organisation.
I was just going to make a suggestion because I have been in contact with London Square when this was first addressed with the exits and entrances. Obviously, you're seeing as evidence to the contrary. Council is saying obviously London Square are aware this and it's meant to be addressed. If we're going to provide evidence, would there be possibility of having a first point of contact with the council on a daily basis, that if something is happening on that day and it's video recorded or photographed, then it can go straight into the council, it can be looked at on that day, so it can be addressed that day and then stopped. I'm just saying, as a solution.
Thank you. Oh, I don't need that one. You can take it back.
Just as a solution to
Yeah.
all the issues, because
Would any councillor like to pick that up?
There is supposed to be one point of contact.
Okay, so there is a point of contact. We'll make sure that that is circulated to people so everyone knows who that point of contact is.
is that on a daily basis? Does it get looked at on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Potentially?
Oh, yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, and that would obviously solve it.
So it's email, he's the one.
Good job. Okay, so we'll make sure that everyone's aware of that point of contact.
Just so, if you email me and it's something like that, I phone them straight away. Like, it's we do try and I personally do have a lot of empathy for the residents, but I can only take, well, I'm not a specialist in building. I merely do Lego. So, like, you know, so I have to take what they say and speak to the officers and try and come to a conclusion. But we are on your side and we want to help, but we can only do that if you communicate with us.
I know you want to move on. I just come back to the point of the vibrations and the noise. London Square's explanation was that it must have been a telehandler putting a pallet down near the vibration monitor. And that's just accepted by environmental health, and we move on. You know, and we sit there in our homes and I've spent videos of diggers smashing the ground repeatedly that coincides with high measurement data and cracks in my walls, and then I'm told it's a telehandler moving bricks. This is about being gaslit. You know, it's clearly not that. And why is that explanation being accepted by the environmental health and not my video of a digger smashing the ground? That's the point, I guess, and that's, you can understand why we feel gaslit in that situation.
Thank you, that's quite a powerful point.
Sorry, my understanding was the enforcement officers came down and met with residents. Did you meet with them?
I didn't meet with them, they came down to the site. It was my understanding Wandsworth is where they're based.
We also had a meet the residents meeting here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you could do that or not.
I couldn't make that.
If you can't make it though, please, again, let us know. We can try and get them to organise one that's in the future, that if there's a better time that works for you.
4 in the afternoon.
It was 4 to 6, but if they don't know, then they can't change it.
Essentially, we're here till about 6.
Well, they can organise those ones if there's like we've got actual something else. Because I mean, when you're making the content directory, it's a lot more difficult to say what so you can actually make your directory directory. So yeah.
So there's a plan there for some meeting. So one more comment from the lady, and then I can.
I understand the gentleman in the front, he's worried about the vibrant effect of his house. And how about to send the surveyor to do the inspection of his building to make sure is the vibrant, it doesn't make his house collapse or something. It's just for assure the safety.
I think the gentleman's point is it's up to them to get their own surveyors, and it's a difficult thing to prove. Because
have you already done that?
Yeah, we've covered on it. Well, I don't know if he's done that piece of work, but that's the advice, and it's a challenge for him to prove when a crack appeared. So it puts the emphasis is on the residents to be able to prove it rather than the other way around. And so it makes a challenge.
I think that the surveyor's report would be the good evidence for the residents.
Yes, the surveyor's report
Safety
with the
of the
evidence
building.
that's needed, yeah. But that was the cost and the challenge to the resident.
Yes, and the people's lives is more important than money. Money for service for people's health and safety. My point, have you got it?
If London Square would like to fund us for all to have surveyors' reports, I'll be delighted. But the fact is, a building surveyor would cost between 500 and 1,000, and there's no guarantee that you would be able to prove that the crack was caused by the associated to the work. So it's a risk we're not prepared to take.
Just a very quick one. I don't want to teach you stuckades, but a few years ago we had an extension done next door. We had a party wall agreement because of vibrations, cracks, etc. And the first thing the guy said is take photos of every wall in your house. I don't know whether you've done that, but if you take a photo on a smartphone these days, the definition is brilliant. They're dated, they're located, and then if you get a crack, hey ho, it's come after I've taken a photo. It's got to be down to London Square, whatever they're called. That's what I would say. Just photograph every wall you've got, because then you've got evidence. But you can't do anything. I mean, these councillors, they can't do anything unless they get the evidence, because London Square will sue them if they do something wrong.
Can I just say, I believe that's a very valid suggestion, because it is, as you say, the record of where the wall is or not wall. Of course, if it's happened, it's a bit too late for you to be doing it. But I think it is a valid suggestion. And if you're at all worried about it, I would suggest adopting the same method.
If you've got a crack there already, put a telltale in it. Because I used to do in the building trade, put a telltale in. If that cracks, you don't see anything more.
Thank you, some good advice there. This lady.
Keep photographing your crack regularly because it will get bigger.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I mean, obviously in a 4-bedroom house, it's quite difficult to take a photo of every single wall and ceiling, and I have taken photos of the walls. But this is the heating and the loft conversion, so that bit I haven't.
But if you can seriously feel vibrations in your house,
yeah, I mean,
I don't mean to be cynical, but the thing is that with all these monitors that are supposed to be registering, we all know what's going on with the emissions. What is legal? What is correct? What is going beyond? Are you an expert in checking what these readings are saying?
No, but I know where my house is moving, and I was, I'm not exaggerating when I say I actually thought the building was going to collapse. So I'm really not. I had to run down there and tell them to stop.
Thank you. Sounds like a very difficult situation. Melissa, question?
Yes, thank you, Lucy. So there's two comments. The second one relates more to something that maybe is more for the general kind of open floor. So the first one is there will be more issues once 116 cars start coming out of the site. Why aren't the council being proactive about this?
So this is about cars, once the development is finished. Do we want to take that one? More cars, more, because I guess each of those houses will potentially have a car. So the question is around parking maybe, but also increased driving around
First
the
of all,
area.
any one resident on that building will not have access to parking outside.
Because there will be an additional 116.
Just finish what I'm saying. Okay. They will not be able to park outside that area. They can travel through it, of course, absolutely, and they can travel away from it, obviously. Okay, but I was suggesting that we build perhaps we could decide that 50% of the people in Edwin Road won't have a car. The people expect to have a car in this country, and I don't believe for one moment we can start issuing instructions. Certainly not at this stage. This is a fact. If everybody wants to move their car at the same time, then of course they'll be jammed. Absolutely, of course they will.
Yeah, the question is about the implications, isn't it?
But that was the fact when before you actually gave planning permission. It's like saying, I want to change it now. Don't be silly. Live in the today's world. I mean, the fact that the compression and the number of people you've got in that boat is a fact known to everybody when they get planning permission.
But the council said that Crane News wouldn't have parking permits. And that's a longer discussion, but we do.
I don't know about, because I wasn't involved with Crane News. Okay.
I can talk to you, I'll explain it to you.
But I know where it is, I know exactly where it is. I also went there when it opened originally. But there's no application will receive from those areas, because that's part and parcel of the whole thing, and that's in the contract now. So anyone applying there, anyone moving in there to think they can change it, they can certainly try it.
But it was in Crane Muse's contract as well.
No, I say I wasn't involved in the decision of claims. I wasn't involved in the decision of giving the parking. What I do know is that what used to be a pub on May Road and William Road didn't have planning permission to get the CPZ. It still doesn't have planning permission to get the CPZ.
Maybe we can get some of those cycle things outside so people use their bicycles.
Can I just say, as a possible solution, how long have you lived in your property?
8 years.
Did you have it surveyed when you bought it?
Yeah.
So you'll have a surveyor's,
Yeah.
right? So you've got an original surveyor's
Yeah.
document.
Yeah.
If you get it surveyed again, and you look at the difference, there's your evidence. Potentially. There you go. Job done. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to vote for him next time.
Thank you.
So I was just going to come back a little bit on that. All of those, the actual greater development for London Square development includes parking for almost all of those cars. And so there is no particular reason why there should be any significant increase in pressure even without CPC.
That's when they move, not just when they park.
Yeah, so the issue is when they move, if people coming in and out. As we know with most of these roads, people don't actually drive on them. If you go down any of these roads, most of the time cars aren't trucking. So people, just because there are 116 cars added to the area, doesn't mean they're going to be moving around all the time. So
The other thing, unlike the people who live in Edinburgh Road or Poole Road, there's no restriction on Poole Road and Colne Road. In fact, this street in this borough for them to have more than one car in the CPZ. There are people who've got 2 cars in a household, and they're parking in those CPZ roads. But the people in Greg's, doesn't matter whether they have 1 car or no cars or 20 cars, they can't get a CPZ parking in the area around the outside.
Okay, so I think that probably covers that question. There was one more comment.
I've got to go, but there's something I wanted to raise in a
It's
conversational way.
moving on to the general way now anyway, thank you.
I live in Wellesley Crescent, and I'm adjacent to St James's School, which was 2 formentary when we moved in. It's now 20 formentaries. It's crazy number. And they closed Stanley Road. It's now pedestrian only, all local cars. And all it's done is displaced all the cars that drove to Stanley Road into Wellesley Crescent in the morning, because the CPZ only comes in at 10 o'clock. So you're not going to hear kids cycling or walking to school, because they're all running their 4x4s and Porsche Cayennes and what have you. Could the CPZ please be brought in at 8:30 so they can't use Wellesley Crescent, Wellesley Road as a school parking area? You know, parents complain about their kids being in danger of cars, and yet whizzing round Wellesley Crescent, Wellesley Road in their big cars to the danger of residents and to other people. You know, cars are like a tube of toothpaste. If you squeeze it, it just goes somewhere else. And we found that the increase in car traffic and using Wellesley Crescent triangles a roundabout that they race round to get back out into Wellesley Road is dangerous. You know, and I think that should be thought about, extending the CPZ to 8:30 so they just can't park and drop their kids and go, or close the alleyway. That's the other thing they could do, is close the alleyway from Wellesley Road to the school, so there's no advantage in parking in Wellesley Road, Wellesley Road.
Thank you. So I don't know if any of the local councils like to say that. I think they're... but if you've got council...
I know St James's School Street quite well, because that's exactly where I live, opposite the school. It's been a trial period of running this, and it's been feedback from as a result, which just gone through. So that will be considered and come back to be looked at by the councillors. I have to say, that Standing Road used to be absolute jungle in terms of, it's a very limited amount of space for anyone to have parked down there. And when you start going down a cul-de-sac to get to your school and park, to pick up your, you never come back if there's no space. You stay there. You find somewhere to stay. Every yellow line, double yellow line, it doesn't matter. You will find somewhere to stop. And so, and it's always had, the school has had for a long time, ever since it opened up to the parishes of Hampton and St Margaret's, it's always had traffic. Originally, it was going to be buses, but they never implemented that. There was never implemented school buses. So a lot of that traffic is not local to here, it's coming from Hampton and St Margaret's. So it is, it is got less frenetic and safer in Standing Road, but of course, it's like, as you say, it's like squeezing a lemon, it just goes somewhere else.
With the cold weather coming as well, they come very early to secure their space and sit there with their engine running until they take their kids.
Well, because the school street is 8 to.
The CPZ could be extended.
It's not CPZ, it's the school street.
No, in Standing Road as it present, it's the
Oh, it's
CPZ.
well,
Yeah.
If it was extended to 8:30.
Okay, all right.
So the stroke, it would finish overnight.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, sorry, I'm misunderstanding.
If you want to drop us a message, we'll look into that.
If you could email your councillor. There's an online question?
Yeah, so there's two comments, I'm going to perhaps, two final comments on Grace.
Okay.
And then there's another, there's a comment about a separate issue that a resident would like to raise. So the comments with regards to the development are, the cars issue was raised at planning commission stage and was ignored. Residents are hugely frustrated that they have made their objections and concerns clear at the time of the planning meeting and we were dismissed.
Okay.
So that's that. Do you want me to?
Would you like to take that on? So,
Being on the planning committee, I know that not to be the case. I obviously, may have raised things and found that their view wasn't the settled view of officer recommendations or the discussion, so it certainly was all considered at the time.
thank you. And the next.
Should I go on to the next comment that's on a separate subject?
Okay.
Yeah. So the next comment was, or question, how can local people stay living in our lovely borough find out easily what new housing developments are coming up in the next 1 or 2 years, and if they are affordable to rent or buy for those on local average pay or less?
Oh, that's a big question. Okay. Affordable housing renovation.
That depends how detailed your solicitor. Back in the good old days, solicitors used to do investigation for you, and you can do it yourself, basically. You can look at all the properties around the property you're thinking of buying. What is the planning for that particular property? And you can see if they've got planning permission or whatever.
So certainly on larger schemes, you'll find that actually they are detailed on the council website.
But there isn't a sort of a press the button and tell me all the things you have to go around and investigate yourself.
So if there are reports, we actually have regular reports that come to the Adult Social Services, Health and Housing Committee I chair, and we do actually do a yearly report. So we actually list all the sort of affordable housing pipeline in that report, and I think it actually reported just a couple of meetings ago. So that certainly will still be easily available, and it will be renewed in a year. Obviously, if you look at the planning portal, you can actually do, there's a really useful map function. You can actually find all the planning permissions actually around your postcode that you put in and so on. It's useful, really useful visual map of what's happening and so on. But for affordable housing, it definitely is in a yearly report.
Thank you.
It's worth mentioning, I don't want to bring back back to regular rent, but that's 40% of that new housing will be for special rent and 10% for shared ownership. So that's one development perhaps I should look at.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or kind of on any subjects that you want to talk about? Any comments? Anything you want to raise?
A supplementary point about the trees. A friend here quite rightly said don't want to put detergent on a tree. What we're looking at the green at the moment is the idea of water capture, that you don't waste water that falls just going down the drain. We're looking possibly at things with the pavilion there in order to capture water, but we can all do it. My wife and I did it in our own garden. You just leave a bucket out. At the simplest level, you can save rain if you want to water a tree in your street. If you've got a small shed or a greenhouse, capture that water, and then you've got water that you can use either in your own garden or in your community. So don't think that there isn't water that you can find that you don't have to pay Thames Water for. It can be done.
Thank you. Yeah, you can go.
Just follow the gentleman's side. I think we have maybe you ask AI. They have some solution that is filter the used water to return to drinkable water. I think Japan have the technology, and Africa they have use the trees, the plant to filter of the water, and to especially Africa. I don't remember which country they did. It's a desert. But they use the plant to store the water, the rainwater, and turn it into drinkable. So there is that lady, she mentioned about environmental thing, friendly. So there's a technology around. We could just through AI to search.
Yeah, lots of solutions. Any further topics people want to raise?
I know that there's some research being done about the success or not of the lighting on Twickenham Green. I don't know how much longer we've got to wait before we get to know whether it can stay.
We've got a meeting in November. I don't know the actual date, but I will let you know. That will go through what the residents say. I think it's pretty positive. I haven't heard anything negative now that the lights are working. They're working on 70% solar as well. I have got lots and lots of details, but I don't have them on me, I'm afraid. But yeah, fingers crossed they will be here to stay. I think the evidence is a king.
What are your own views?
I want people who sadly go to Twickenham Green the first Monday of every month to talk about dead women, generally about 10 or 12. I hope to go one Monday when there's 0. So I'm very pro and happy. Can
I just add on to that point as well? We've got the Council's 16 days of activism coming up on the 25th of November to the 10th of December, and that is on community safety and which is trying to stop violence against women and girls. Within that, we'll have a regular training, which happens every quarter online, and anybody can sign up for free. I've done it, it's absolutely fantastic, and it just gives you even if you go over one little nugget of information of if you see something happening, how to potentially stop that without putting yourself or the victim in more danger. We also have a training workshop on incel ideology, which will be online on the 9th of December, which again is open to all the public, and I suggest if you can go on it. It's just online, really easy, but it's trying to change the perception, how to talk to young people, and fingers crossed that as a community we can then pass that knowledge on to other people and make a step into trying to stop violence against women and girls, which is still a massive problem, and as a council we're trying to find ways to try and stop it.
Yeah, thanks for your information on that. But also another thing I really wanted to know is before Richmond Station was being renovated, there was a police presence outside the station where women could go for help. And it was obviously when the renovations were held. But what I really would love to have known is actually, because it's costing money of course, but what was the usage of that? Was it, apparently now it's actually not run by the police, it's apparently run by TfL. But I'd love to know, is it a positive thing? Like we're making this presence here, young girls actually go there if you're feeling at all vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I'd like to know how many did.
I don't know the stats, and I mean we are going to come to. But I have heard of women going there who have been spiked and they've started to see the initial symptoms and gone there, and people and the police have helped them, and that has hopefully saved someone, you know, like that in different kind of multitudes of things. But
yeah, hi, I'm John Block, I'm the Community Inspector. So the Safe Space in Richmond still exists. It runs from 8 o'clock in the evening till 11 on a Friday. It's actually now run by the council, so Abby Jones is sort of the lead on it. It wasn't the police initially, it was BTP and myself. But arguably, because of what's happened over the last few years, we've really struggled to get the resources to be there on every Friday. So the intention for it is to remain, and it will remain every week, and to try and grow it. So we've, as well as volunteers, we will have a police presence. So whether it be police officers or PCSOs, but that is very much still a priority for us, especially where it's located, because historically we did have a higher crime trend in that area, especially during nighttime hours. And what we found since we've been running, I think it's over 3 years now, is that crime has actually dropped in that area. I know the next thing you'll ask me is why can't we do it in Twickenham or other areas? And a lot of this is because of resource dependence and where things are actually occurring at the time. So ideally we would love to take this across the borough, but at the moment it is Richmond, it is Staley, and it is the council and ourselves that look every week, so I can reassure you that. And the intention is, like you said, it's a safe space for any person, but especially women. So if they're out, if something happens in the evening, or you want to go somewhere to wait for someone to collect you, it's ideal. And a lot of feedback we've already had is that people are now using the commuting system, the overground, the underground, or the buses, and they're being picked up there or stopping through because there is a presence and they feel safer. And like I said, we'd love to grow that, the people attending. And Abby Jones is the person that if you wish to volunteer and you have sort of certain skills or qualifications, please do contact her or come to us, come to myself, and I'll sign pressure to Abby.
Okay, so looking for volunteers.
So Lucy,
Melissa.
can I just, oh, sorry, it's Bailey. I was just going to say, on Twickenham Green, there is a lighting, the consultation is still running, and that closes on the 23rd of October. So if anyone does want to engage in consultation, we've got QR codes here and at the back as well. So yeah, if you do want to do
consultation about the lighting.
Yes, specifically about Twickenham Green lighting. It closes on the 23rd of October, so if you do want to engage with that, definitely do.
Great, thank you.
I would certainly be very pro retaining lights on Twickenham Green. I started trying to get lights on Twickenham Green 20 years ago. It took me a long time, and I think they should.
So it sounds like lots of positivity around that, so, but there's still an opportunity to respond to the consultation. Melissa.
Thanks, Lucy. So one comment from a resident is Twickenham Police Station updates, please.
Okay, so...
Yeah, hi, that's me again. So the honest answer is at the moment there is no update that I can give you. The message was relayed probably about a month, 6 weeks ago, that there'll be certain police stations that are going to lose their front counters across London. This has come about because we've had to find £250 million in savings service. And the think tank, who are currently finding these savings, has deemed this area as being one of them. Now, it still is out of consultation. I saw Gareth Roberts, the leader of the council, on Friday. He asked me a question. I couldn't give him an answer. He gave me a little bit of an update from his perspective. What I will say is your councillors, your leader, your MPs are absolutely fighting tooth and nail to retain Twickenham front counter. I have to be careful what I say personally, but I think it's pretty obvious that as a community inspector across London, we are all saying the same thing. But we have to, it's a realisation, money is key to this. So I would expect an answer, hopefully within imminent or soon. We're at that point now where they've had the consultation, the superintendent's spoken to key people, we fed that back to the decision makers, and it could be that they look again at the picture and decide to either retain other stations around London or keep Twickenham. I can promise you as a community that as soon as I know and we know, your councillors, your leader MPs will know, because it will make an impact. But at this time, the honest answer is that no decision has been given to us formally.
Okay, thank you. So waiting for a decision on that one. Is there anything that people can do in the meantime? Email their MPs to show their...
I mean, you contact one of the councils and so on. There is actually an online petition and so on we can want you to. And as John very helpfully said, there's lots of lobbying going on from council MPs. Gareth, of course, is also the GLA member of South West London and so on, and challenging it at the GLA as well. So
there's an online petition and we found...
but it's probably a lid-down, but we'll see what we can provide and so on. Just check with council officers and so on, but there might be a more less party political one as well.
Okay,
just from a practical point of view, I'm just thinking, how do you all get together and decide what you're doing for the next shift, or what's just happened, or what, you know, from a practical way? You can't be all working remotely on the radio, surely? If it does go, what's the physicality? What's involved?
So at Richmond Police Station you have the response teams that cover Kingston and Twickenham, and we're going to be based there. Twickenham Police Station is not shutting, it's just the front counter. I currently have wards that work from there, that your wards cover it as well, so obviously we have face-to-face conversations with each other. We have 3 sub-bases across the borough, where we also have ward officers in Tangley Park, in Wales and in East Sheed, so that's the coverage we have. And we will also be moving to Holly Lodge with 2 of the wards, the South Richmond ward and a Ham ward, because as you're probably aware, Parks Police will be no longer from the 1st of November, something that the community team will be taking over ownership of the parks. There's a lot of challenges, and you know, I'm in the same position as I've been told that's now my responsibility, Bushy Park, and my colleague Chris Jackson has Richmond Park. However, what we've managed to do with the uplift is we've now, and I was telling the councillor earlier, we've now actually managed to fill all our posts across all our wards with PCs and PCSOs for the first time since I've been here for nearly 5 years with operation officers. That is a real positive for us. And within that, we have one sergeant who will be joining us in November, who is the current park sergeant, Pete Sturgis, who will be coming to join our team. And we also have 2 other parks officers that will be in the wards. So from that perspective, we've tried to be astute in who we've recruited in, because we're very aware that we're not au fait with park legislation. And we could open another conversation about this, but at the moment, our Royal Park, so the only people that can deal and enforce things in there are warranted officers, which are police officers, not the council. So again, by bringing them into our teams, we're bringing in their experience, which we hope we can give to the other officers. Yes, it's a challenge, but I'm pretty confident we can step up to it. But we, again, like everything, when I talk to the community, I say, a lot of what we can do is from yourselves. If we know what's happening, if we know if there's problems occurring, then we will react to those problems. We do not have the resources to be out on the streets all the time. I'd love to have more officers walking around, engaging with yourselves and being visible. So we're very reliant on you telling us what is occurring, and that can be done through different channels or different ways. One of them is Met Engage. You may have heard that. That's a communication system we use and you can sign up to. Again, there's the 909 system, there's the 101, and we can do it online. If it's reported through official channels, then a reference is created, and then as an inspector, I'm held accountable if there's a crime spike in certain areas. If it isn't recorded through official channels, you know it's happening, we don't, then it becomes very difficult for me to deal with it, and it's very similar to the problems that people have said about the issues for the renovation of the bakery or the building. So I would just say to you, please, 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 speak to your local ward teams, let us know what's happening, let us know what's affecting you, and we do our best to change that. And whether it's us or another agency, we do well with the council and the partners, we will do our best for you.
Hi, I just would like to ask about secondary school police officers. Is there any cut on, is going to be happening any cuts on that ones as well? In the schools, especially secondary schools, they are like quite difficult, that they need a police in there because it could be, teenagers and it could make problems. Is there any changes in our local schools, or is it going to stay as it is?
Yeah, so I feel like taking over this, but so again, as part of the tough choices, the schools officers have been merged into the safe neighbourhood teams. So each team, each cluster has a designated schools officer. So within schools, there is legislation that the schools can use. They can sort of police themselves within school time. What we're doing is we're removing officers, so we will have a presence before and after school, and the schools officers that we have will then be able to go into the schools, but their presence will not be the same as what it used to be, because we do not have the resources within London policing to have an officer in the schools as we used to. So we will still service the schools and we still have that relationship. It's just that what we won't have now is schools officers within the schools during 8 to 4 when they'll be looked after by the teachers. But we still do deal with crimes and offences that occur within the schools, and we have that liaison. So again, that is what we're working through at the moment with all the changes within the National Police Service.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other things people want to talk about?
I've been listening to talk about the Peg site. I live beside the Muirway site, which should have been started building today, but however, plant and machinery moved in 2 weeks ago, and they've been digging up the ground and taking soil away. And it was the Environment Agency working, but I can't see how that works. I complained about the fact that there was methane on the site. I was told by an RHP representative that there was methane on the site, and now it seems to have disappeared since 6 months, although nothing has been done about it, but magically it's disappeared. And I think with this started there, and the piling, I've been assured from the site, because I was worried about my house, that they're not going to use drilling, they're going to use, they're not going to use piling, they're going to use a large drill, which will be silent, and the technique is quieter, and will be very little vibration. Well, on account of the fact I've not got any trust in what they're saying, I can't really believe it either. So does anyone have any clues or answers to those points, 3 points?
Well, certainly I've spoken to them. I mean, basically, it is taking a large drill. Just goes that and screws it in, and it moves soil at the same time. It's a recognised way of building
Why
a
is
hole.
it driving it outside and
And
not?
pile driving is, it isn't that, okay? It is a screw down, basically.
If I hear thump, who do I report it to?
Sorry?
If I hear thump, who do I report it to?
Well, certainly shout at me because I've been amazed, but also speak to the environment. But certainly, if you see anything that's not what we expect, let us know. Because, as I say, life is done with it, and it's a known way of doing it. It's the sort of thing that I can see they could do in that area, but certainly in some areas where you've got existing hard ground, you couldn't do it, to break that. And that's what it is, yes.
You've been chatting with officers about methane already.
Also that, you'll find that's covered in the planning. So they're only allowed to do that.
But if there's anything like Mike was saying, CCN officer and CCN us 3 as well. I can't remember what you said about methane, but I'm pretty sure you said that it was...
Alan, you attended the meeting with the actual building.
We had the meeting, developers had a meeting at Crane Community Centre. You should have walked in. That's when they said it was a drill, I suppose.
No, this is in the letter. I've been in touch with
Right. Okay. Yeah, well, we did bring up the issue of vibrations. was obviously from the Grace issue. And it meant that so that meant bringing up, they did make it very clear that it was going to be a very different type of foundations for ones than Grace. So
There is no methane.
I didn't hear about the methane. They didn't methane.
The methane was a different. They did discuss it with methane, but we follow up in your letter about methane. Now we're told there isn't any methane there. Okay. But regarding the development itself, regarding the screw concept, after you'd gone, and then just the, shall we say, the field guys, the senior guy who runs the company turned up. We had a long discussion with him, and that was reinforced. So as I say, I would be as shocked as you would if it didn't happen.
And what about the builders turning up there and it's supposed to be the environment agency, but why are they clearing the site?
That was not to do with your development. It was the fact that the environment agency wanted to get to the other side of the bank and rip over the concrete, as I said, which has now been done, as I understand.
Well, I contacted about 3 people and got no replies at all, which is why I brought it up tonight.
Okay, no problem. But as I say, I understand that, in fact, Force actually have run people down as well. So the work that's been done has been dealt through the Environment Agency itself, not our environment people.
Well, they're still there today when the builders should have come in.
Oh, okay.
We can check on that.
We'll follow that.
I'm sure they're trying not to interfere with each other.
Yeah.
Okay, any other things that people want to raise for your councillors? Anything with your community?
One last thing. No, it's not about moderation, but it is about grades. There's a footbridge at the edge of the site planned to take the 20-foot way. It's about the only thing that I can personally think is positive grades. We received a letter from London Square about some works, and I noticed that the footbridge is shown on that plan. Is that condition of planning, and will it be built?
Okay.
Decision planning what?
The footbridge.
Footbridge.
The building of the footbridge.
I'm not sure it was in the application.
It isn't part and parcel of the planning application. But having said that, I would like it to be there, because to my way of thinking, it would make a hell of a difference to that corner of South Twickenham. It would allow access to the nation, to the nature, which is just outside the creek, other side of the street. It's certainly amenable. I need to find a label of how much it costs.
And would that be paid for by London Square? Is that the ambition?
At the moment, no, because there are no need for it.
The development brings with it a certain amount what's called community infrastructure levy, and that could be a source of funds for a bridge. And so that there is a potential there to help finance it. It would come out of their levy rather than them paying for it.
So please, if your keenness and other neighbours are, let all councillors know, so that it'll bolster their case.
I don't know.
It's going.
No doubt in my mind asking the question, can you pay for it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just showing it on every single plan I see.
I would basically say is make this small investment, and you'll be able to really sell your property.
It's not an application.
Okay.
Just a final note from me. This has been very interesting tonight, and it's been really useful to talk to the councillors and the secretaries here. I'd just like to say to people who might not be aware, there are police liaison groups that take place for the local wards, so they take place every 3 months or so.
So I think the next one is on the 8th of December, Pam. So
Yes, so that's a chance again for people to go along and talk to the police, councillors about issues. And also just to let people know we've got Friends of Twickenham Green, just on the green. And again, that's a good group to go along to where we can talk about things that are affecting the green in the area. So there are quite a lot of outlets for people to go and sort of have these conversations, which I think tonight's been very useful, and it's been good to hear about all the issues. So I just wanted to publicise that, and her details will go in the minutes. the Friends of Twickenham Green is in the cricket pavilion, and the police liaison groups, the details are usually circulated by the
We'll make
police.
sure they're
The next one is PLG.
And just a quick plug, there's also Friends of Nether Gardens as well, who are a lively group and look at developments in Nether Gardens. So please think about joining them.
If I could just say, if anybody wants to sign up to Met Engage tonight, I've got the Q code here. It's all very good for you to sign up to Met Engage, and that way you can, if you need to contact me directly through that, I will get all your messages and communications. I've got the Q code here.
Thank you very much. So if there isn't any further questions or comments, I think we can bring the
Can I
meeting
just
to
say that
close.
everybody's talking about doing all this online, on Q codes and all the rest of it, and there's a lot of people who probably don't have that sort of means. So I think, you know, there needs to be some sort of paper thing in libraries, in the information desk at Richmond Station, and in other means getting in touch with everybody. Because unless you are signed up for stuff, you haven't got a clue.
Thank you, it's a really
Very
good
good,
point
thank you.
about accessibility.
Thank you, Chair, as well. Thanks to you.
Can I just say really quickly to this lady, we hear you and we do a lot of that stuff. So most of the councillors have phone numbers that you can ring. There'll be the customer services.
Yeah, but you've got to go online to find it. This is the problem. You don't have a telephone directory anymore in this day and age. It's all online. And unless you have that facility, you know, the average middle-aged person, I just happen to have a bit more IT skill than someone. But if I look at people in our road who don't have that skill,
Which is why
Have
we
a
send
look on the
folks to
notice
the
boards on
library.
Twickenham Green. The notice boards have contact details.
Can I just come in on that? The libraries, you can actually go onto the library and get information. The library staff will help you with all of that.
I do agree with you. I think there needs to be more information for everybody and not just online.
Look at these leaflets here. It doesn't cover the police, it doesn't cover race, it doesn't cover, half the stuff that's been discussed today.
I think, yeah, there's a lot of reliance on online stuff, so I do agree. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Really appreciate you coming out. And yeah, I think that there's people who can catch up with your local council maybe quickly for get contact details, and then we have to leave here by 9, so we've got a few minutes to